Hi all, this is Skate, and we are finally going to have a look at the new event tanks. And first we are going to have a look at the KpfPanzer 70, or I'm just going to refer to it as the MBT 70 as it's easier. So, as per the previous video, the way to get hold of this tank will be to get in the top 1000 on each server in terms of damage, which is accumulated and added up by looking at your first 5 victories from every day starting from the 23rd of August to the 6th of September. The other way of getting this tank will be via opening containers. Every time you open containers you get charms. You'll get a varying amount of charms, but you can unlock it via that means, via purchasing a lot of containers. Doing it that way is very possible to get the tank, however is very expensive. Well, the likelihood is it's very expensive. Obviously there's a chance you could get lucky and just end up getting the tank. However, the chances are slim. The previous video uploaded to the channel does give more information on going about getting this tank. However, in this video I want to focus on more what the tank is actually like and if it's actually worth it. So we'll have a look at that, and then we'll also have a good look at the T49 A. First things first, when testing this tank, I have been using 6 bits of equipment unlocked, and the reason I've been doing it as such is because when you get this tank, you get it with 6 bits of equipment fitted. So on the test server, I have been running mine as follows. Obviously we are up against bots, just to confirm, because it's a test server, and there's no people on the test server, and you'd be surprised how often this comes up in the comments. If there are no other players to play against because it's a test server, then the only option is bots. With that being said, what's the tank actually like? Well, in terms of DPM, it has worse DPM than any other tier 9 heavy tank. Combine that bad DPM with the worst penetration out of any tier 9 tank. As an example, this tank has 240 penetration, the VK4502 has 246, Conk 259, M103 258, 258 on the ST1, 258 on the IS8, 246 on the E75. So it's only 6mm difference, but it is still the worst at tier 9. In fact, that's medium tank penetration territory. So on a DPM front and a penetration value front, it's not the greatest. In terms of the gun, what it's got going for it is its alpha damage. This thing has 560 alpha, which the closest thing to it really is the VK4502 with 460. So this packs an extra 100 per shot. So you're not really looking at brawling with this thing, and there's a couple of reasons why you're not looking at brawling except for that DPM. Effective DPM would be peekabooing against the tanks. That way you're hopefully trading your 560 shot for one of those 400 shots in return. Another thing to consider with this tank is it has 90mm penetration on the HE. None of the other tier 9 heavy tanks have that much penetration on their HE. Most of them are around the 60 to 70 mark. Obviously the Conqueror has HESH, so it has 120mm. Now this may not seem like much, but it does give you that little bit of advantage in terms of the HE being more workable, more usable, especially as the HE on this has 640 alpha. So in terms of the weapon, it's got the worst DPM, worst penetration, best alpha on the HE, and the best alpha and HE penetration values. Obviously the rate of fire is the worst as well, which is why I'm saying it's not a brawling tank, it's a peekaboo tank. Aim time is 2.2 seconds, which is middle of the road. Dispersion is 0.36, which makes it the worst out of all of the tier 9 heavies. Dispersion on the move, in the middle as well, and depression, it's got -6 degrees of gun depression. And to be playing this tank effectively, you really want to be using that 6 degrees of gun depression everywhere you possibly can. And the reason for that being is because the hull on this thing is not very good at all, but the turret is very good, and it's exceptionally good when you are using the gun depression to its maximum, because that increases the effective thickness of the armor by a large amount, which makes the turret very bouncy. Now the hull, as I mentioned, is quite bad. It's got 120mm on the front, 90 on the sides, and 60 on the rear. So you haven't got too many concerns in terms of being penetrated with HE on the side. But that armour realistically is not going to block an awful lot. The turret, however, has 200mm on the front, and it's very, very well angled. And as I mentioned, using the 6 degrees of gun depression increases the thickness even further. So really, the only way to play this tank reliably is either to trade shot for shot, and obviously take the hits, or use the gun depression to its maximum and hide the hull behind anything you possibly can. Now, mobility-wise, this thing is very much comparable to the IS-8. It has the same horsepower per ton, and it has virtually the same track traverse. This has 27, IS-8 has 28, so it's very mobile for a heavy tank. All in all, do I think this thing is going to be OP? Absolutely not. It's got a nice winning recipe in terms of the turret, in terms of the nice high alpha, but if you get this thing out of its comfort zone, I think it's going to be fairly easy to pick apart, especially by high DPM medium tanks. Because out in the wide open, where the hull on this thing can be hit all day long, can't really do a lot to defend itself at that point because it doesn't have the DPM to try and match it. The only thing you can do is very, very high alpha shots, which realistically you need to be doing those shots and then getting your hull into cover, just poking your turret. In that situation, this tank is going to be very, very strong. When it's not in that situation, it's not something I would feel threatened by in the slightest. As an example, if I saw a VK4502B and it was side-scraping against a building, and I'm in a medium tank pointing at it, that's something which you're like, no, I'm not going near that, I'm going to go drive all the way around it, around the flanks. If the VK's wide out in the open, then he's not threatening in the slightest. That's what this tank is like, except this tank you have more chance to pick it apart because it's got weaker armour. The nice thing this thing does have going for it is it's not a premium tank, because it's classed as a gift tank, but it's enriched. So although we don't know the credit coefficient on it, you're never in theory going to make a loss with it. Now the other thing is, just as an example, Himmelsdorf. This map is perfect for this tank. You have plenty of ridges, mounds to hide behind, take advantage of the 6 degrees of gun depression, and pop in and out of cover constantly. Now I'm not going to do that in this match because I want to do a YOLO charge and see just how long I would actually survive, how many shots I would bounce. The answer is not many at all. I got nailed, and I got nailed very, very quickly. But that's my stupidity. That's not a fault in the tank. I do think other tanks like the VK or the ST1 would have produced more bounces by now. But it's certainly not a tank you want to YOLO in because you're just going to get obliterated very, very quickly. But this is just a test, just to show you how bad the hull is, and obviously how stupid players can be just YOLO running. Here is a different example. Here is an example of everybody just firing at my turret. Yes, in reality they wouldn't just fire at my turret here because you can shoot the hull. However, testing the turret in this way, I can show you how damn bouncy this turret is. The front of it anyway. The side, you'll notice, if I'm not looking at the T30, is getting shots through. But anyone who's about to shoot at me, you look at them, or you look in their direction, and you will bounce their shot off the turret. Hopefully these two clips though can give you an example of the best and the worst situation in terms of this tank. Or rather, its best features and its worst features. Now things with high penetration values are going to be able to penetrate the turrets on this. Especially things like Grill's Tier 10 tank destroyers. If you use the full 6 degrees of gun depression, it makes it a bit of a touch and go situation whether or not they will go through. All in all, do I think it's worth getting? Well, yeah, it's free. Log in every day, get 5 wins any point in the day, just 5 wins, and the damage taken is then added to your scoreboard. If I get in the top 1,000 based on that and I get it, fantastic. If I don't, I don't. I'll just take my T30 out instead. No, it's a nice looking tank. The MBT-70's got an interesting history as well. They put this thing under the German tech tree, but it's technically half German, half American. And I want it for that reason. I just think it'll be an interesting, fun tank to play. And it looks cool. Next tank we need to look at, the T49 A. Now, I personally have received more messages and questions asking about the T49 A than any other event Wargaming have done in Blitz. Which is why I've been itching to get this video out to you guys to answer the concerns and questions. Because there's a lot of people terrified that this thing's going to be absolutely OP. It's not. Oh my god, those rockets are so hard to use. Don't get me wrong, they are very good fun. But they are very challenging to get used to. So this is one of the first battles I practiced in the T49 A. I literally picked it up, clicked the record button, I was like, right, let's check out these rockets. And it's odd. I'm serious, it's not OP like you think it is. Guiding those rockets is a nightmare. So there's a Tiger by here. I could launch HE directly at his side with a normal type T49. But what I'm going to try and do is shoot the rockets to the right of it and loop it in to get more penetration. I hit the wall, not the tank. This thing's got a big old 18-second reload. So I'm going to try a couple of shots. And I'm going to skip forward a little bit in between so you don't have to wait that time. But let's try the second one. Loop it in, hit a wall again. Skip forward a little bit, try again. Loop it in, straight round the back of the tank. We skip forward again, and let's try again. So we're going to fire it, loop it, and hit the wall again. By this point, I was getting really frustrated, so I thought, I know, I'll move to a less of an issue angle. So I'll get a bit closer. Let's try one more time, a little bit closer. Loop it in. Hit the wall. It's really annoying. I'm going to have one more go by here, and then I'm going to relocate slightly. So, I'm going to aim it out and loop it in to try and get full pen. And I go straight behind the tank. No. We are going to go through one more reload, and we're going to have one more attempt. Trust me though, I'm getting frustrated again just watching this. So we're going to fire one more time, and we're going to go straight into a wall. Trust me, gauging where you need to put those shells, or those rockets rather actually now, is incredibly difficult to get used to. Oh no, I'm having another go from here. Why am I doing that? Oh, and this time we bounced. Oh, for God's sake. Right. How many times have I fired at this tank? And we hit it once. So, in the end, I just come to this point and think, right, I'll just guide the rocket straight into the front of the tank. Because that's the thing, this thing doesn't have an aim time. Or it doesn't have a dispersion value. On the last video, there must have been so many comments saying, oh, this thing's going to be OP as hell being shot at from behind a rock. Trust me, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to shoot at someone from behind a rock. If anything, where this tank is going to be incredibly deadly is point and aim in the open. Because wherever you try to go back into cover, that's where it can almost chase you. Because it's easier that way. And it's pretty much the approach I've then taken to this tank. Screw it, I'm going to treat it like a tier 7 T49. And I'm going to go play this thing, because it's only around for a certain period of time. So when it does come onto the live server, don't forget it is going to get taken off you on the 20th of September at the end of the event. But I'm definitely going to try and unlock it and have a laugh with it. But look, let's try again. I have no idea where that even went. So yeah, I want to have a go on the live server because I think it's going to be good fun. But am I going to sit there behind rocks trying to launch shells out? Absolutely not. It's so incredibly frustrating. Where this tank is good is situations where you can see your target and you can follow your target because you can see it. And in that aspect, when you treat it like a normal T49 with a bad reload, it's going to be very good fun. It's a tier 7, so this thing's going to come up against tier 6s. Can you imagine how much fun a T49 is going to be against tier 6s? I'm actually looking forward to derping a KV2. Like, how do you like it? It's just going to be amazing fun. But I hope it's not something which comes to the game permanently. It's a nice gimmick. It's a nice thing for an event, because if it comes in as like a rare one-off thing, it's fun, it's interesting. If this comes in as a permanent feature, then no, it's probably not going to be that fun. And when I saw these rockets, that was my first reaction was, I wonder if they're testing for anything, maybe a more permanent feature, testing to see the reactions, testing to see what it's like. And that got me a little bit nervous, because I don't think I would like to see these as a permanent feature. Like I said, for an event, it's fun. It's a short period of time, guys. Which is why I'm not pulling my hair out by the concept. And again, you can see here, I'm trying to loop my shot down into that SU-152. It is so hard to do. Behind cover, launching at something, and hitting it is going to be fluke, not skill. I can promise that. Here is a nice example of where the tank is... Well, actually, no, I'm going to try again. So we're going to go up and try and loop it down at the right distance. Again, have no idea where that went. I think with a lot of practice, and it will take a lot of practice, because you need to learn and have the muscle memory to then go, I know exactly how fast this shell is going to travel and how it works. As it stands though, no. It's just pure frustration. I prefer to use it in that sort of scenario. You shoot your rocket while you can see what you're looking at, and then you duck back into cover while your rocket's already in the air, and you can guide it from behind, or like this. You'll see my rocket's gone a little bit right. I aimed it more left, which then went straight into the middle of the panel, which you know is going to do full penetrating damage then. Now this thing will take you... This tank will take you a couple of days to unlock because of mission reset times. And you need 16,000 of those orders to get the tank. So if you do want it, I'd recommend going for this tank as the unlock stage first, because it gives you the most time with the tank. Now, I've asked this question directly, because it's not been a stat haul or anything like that. I have my own personal goal of trying to get a mastery in every single tank in the game. That's my own personal target. I know there's a lot of people who push for the same thing, already have the same thing. It's just one of those things. Everyone has their own personal thing. If you are going for this tank, you need to make sure that you master it in the time you have it. And that's probably going to be quite challenging, because the amount of people are probably going to be playing it. And the reason I mention that is because, by all accounts, this thing is not coming back. So if you have a target similar, that is something to obviously take into consideration. Yeah, for some reason I could have got a nice shot on his butt there, and I decided, ooh, I wonder if I can jump on him. So that's what I'm attempting to do right now, but I don't sadly get enough lift to land on him. This tier 7 version isn't actually as fast as its big brother at tier 8. All in all, guys, I do think the tank also is definitely worth a look. It's not OP though, and it's not going to break the game, and it is only until the 20th of September, so I'm not too concerned about it personally. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. It is only meant to be a preview of both, but I want to give as much information as I can. So, thank you all for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.